What would happen if humans found answers to all questions? Imagine a very quiet night. In front of you is a single screen. You type any question about the universe, about the future, about love, about death. And that screen always answers correctly. There is no doubt. There are no half-right answers. Every question immediately ends with certainty that cannot be disputed. At first glance, that sounds like humanity's greatest dream. But precisely at that point, something strange begins to appear. Because all this time, we often assume that answers are the end of the journey. We imagine life would be much calmer if all mysteries disappeared. No confusion, no debate, no long nights thinking about things we do not understand. The world feels more orderly, safer, easier to control, and on paper that sounds perfect. But do humans really want to live in a world that is already fully understood? From the beginning, humans have been shaped by curiosity. Not only because we like to ask questions, but because we always feel disturbed when there is something we do not understand. We created myths to give meaning to lightning that felt frightening and mysterious. We created science to turn curiosity into evidence. Every era has its own way of saying, "We do not understand this yet, but we will search." So when someone imagines answers to all questions, what they are actually imagining is not just information. They are imagining the end of uncertainty that has shaped civilization. But there is something often forgotten. Many things we call answers are actually born from incompleteness. A scientist works because they do not yet know. An artist creates because there is something that cannot be explained with numbers. A child asks because the world still feels magical. Not knowing is not just a weakness, it is also a driving engine. If everything has been answered, where does that drive come from? If everything is already clear, what is left to pursue? Here, psychology offers an interesting clue. The human brain does not like uncertainty. We tend to look for patterns, even when they do not exist. That is why we quickly feel relieved when we get an explanation, even if that explanation is not necessarily correct. Certainty provides a sense of safety. But too much certainty can also kill the desire to grow. Imagine a child who is always given all the answers before they have time to think. They may become quicker to know. But they could lose the most important muscle in life, the ability to keep thinking when they do not know. And without that ability, humans can become smart, but not deep. But now let us shift slightly. What happens if answers to all questions truly exist? Not random answers, not guesses. Final answers. First, the world of education changes completely. Schools no longer teach how to find answers, because answers are already available. What remains is only memorization. Then science loses its sense of adventure. Researchers no longer break through the fog, they only read the final results. It sounds efficient, but efficiency has a price. Because many great discoveries are born precisely from detours, from mistakes, from questions that initially seem foolish. Without that process, humans may get results, but lose the journey that makes those results meaningful. But there is a deeper problem. Not all questions submit to facts. There are questions that cannot be sufficiently answered with data. Who am I? Why should I live honestly? Does this person truly love me? Is this decision right? Answers to such questions do not always work like mathematical formulas. Sometimes the best answer actually changes depending on who is asking, when they are asking, and what wounds they carry. So maybe the problem is not that we lack answers. Maybe some questions live precisely because they cannot be absolutely closed. This is where the paradox becomes sharp. If someone truly knows all the answers, are they still free? For example, you know with certainty that a choice will lead you to failure. Will you still choose it? If you know the future of your relationship, does love still feel like a choice? Or merely compliance with an already known outcome? Many things in life have value precisely because they are uncertain. Courage, hope, loyalty, sacrifice, all have meaning because there is risk. If all outcomes are already open, human actions turn into merely following a finished map. Life becomes correct but perhaps no longer feels alive. Then there are the social impacts. Knowledge is not only about truth. Knowledge is also about power. In economics, in politics, in everyday relationships, those who know earlier often have an advantage. If all answers are available to everyone, The structure of who controls and who follows can collapse, but that does not always bring peace. It could instead create new chaos. Imagine everyone knows the future of the market. Imagine everyone knows each other's secrets. Imagine there is no longer any space to hide anything. The world may become more honest, but also far more fragile, because many social structures stand not only on facts, but also on the gray space that allows us to still coexist. But wait, there is an even deeper question. Can all answers truly mean everything? Because once we dig deeper, we realize that many questions change once they are answered. When you get an answer, often the next question actually appears. Why is that? Then what comes after? Why should I care? Knowledge does not always close doors. Often it opens another door that is narrower, darker, and harder to pass through. So even if humans find answers to all the questions we know today, perhaps tomorrow we will still ask again. Not because we are stupid, but because awareness always moves faster than certainty. There is another reason why total answers feel impossible. Human life is not only about knowing the world, but also giving meaning to the world. Two people can see the same event and still feel it differently. One person sees failure as an end, another sees it as a beginning. The data may be the same, but meaning never fully resides in the data. Meaning is born from humans who interpret. And as long as humans still have hearts, memories, fear, and hope, there will always be space that cannot be answered by a single final sentence. Maybe that is why we do not only pursue truth, we also pursue meaning. So what would actually happen if humans found answers to all questions? Maybe not absolute peace, maybe instead boredom, or stopping growth, or losing direction. But it could also be, in a gentler version, humans would not stop asking at all. It is just that we would stop seeking answers for the wrong reasons. We would realize that not all mysteries must be killed. Some mysteries actually keep us human. They force us to think, feel, choose, and endure in the midst of uncertainty. And maybe that is where the strangest answer of all this lies. Not at the moment when all questions are answered, but at the moment we understand that some questions must remain alive. Because if there is nothing left that we do not understand, we may finally know everything, but we no longer have a reason to grow. So when someone says they want answers to everything, maybe the more honest question is this: do we truly want a world without mystery? Or do we actually just want a world that is understandable enough to keep living in?